For me, you know, the journey is important. The journey is the movie. The journey is one of danger. That is one of the unknown. These guys are literally crossing the frontier of the known world at that point in history. They had no idea what they were going to encounter. I mean, it's pretty much a suicide mission that these guys are on. The most important message of the film, to me, which I think is very relevant now for our times, is that you can actually learn something incredibly valuable about yourself from your enemy. And I think that's a really valid message, really valid. Donald's a great actor. You know, he's a legend of the business. He's incredibly professional. Actually, one thing about Donald is that he does not like to shoot a dialogue scene as his first day of work. He likes to do very small scenes and his first couple of days of shooting before he really kind of gets into it, because he has to understand the character. And I think that way of approaching your work is just really essential, because especially for him, you know, he came in kind of halfway through the shooting and we'd already kind of established a bond with Kevin and Channing, you know, so he kind of came in a little bit later, but he really found a character there, kind of a wounded man, you know. He was a real pleasure to work with. A funny story. I mean, there was lots, you know. I mean, for me and Channing, you know, we're incredibly competitive with each other, and you know, a lot of that came out in who's got the fastest horse, or you know, who's got the biggest sword, and I mean weapon. Who's you know, who can stay in the freezing cold water longer than the other. So there's lots of that kind of stuff. Channing had a pretty serious injury in the film, which isn't funny. He got severely burnt by some boiling water, which wasn't funny, but it is now funny, you know, looking back on it. But it was pretty rough, man, to be honest. You know, we were in Scotland in November in rivers, and it was tough. So there wasn't a huge amount of kind of laughing at that stage in the film. Yeah, it's interesting. You would think that you know, being in a physical location would give you a lot of options and stuff, whereas being in this kind of small grey box, you know, with kind of weird things attached to you, would kind of limit you. But I really feel like motion capture actually is a very freeing environment for an actor to work in. You know, you kind of have a template of what everything is and what it represents, but for you as the actor, you can really go beyond what is there and create with your imagination. Andy Serkis, who's a veteran of motion capture, I call him the Gandalf of motion capture. You know, he's the real genius, and getting to work with him in that specific medium was a joy. And to see you know, Steven Spielberg, who'd never worked in this medium before, kind of really take it by the horns and just attack it, and you know, he said it made him like a painter, kind of more than ever before. So it was a really interesting thing. I can't really say if I prefer one or the other, but they're both very, very different. No, I mean, I think that is the point of reference for most people. You know, listen, without that film, I wouldn't be here making this film or making other films. I owe an incredible amount to that film. I mean, the thing with the movie is that the movie has now moved on. The legacy of that character has become something entirely different, you know, which I'm not affiliated with at all. But, you know, Billy Elliot, the life of that character continues. And I'm a part of that life. So for me, it's still incredibly important, you know, in terms of identity and you know, a kind of a piece of my own history, which is obviously incredibly special to me. It's my first film I ever made. You know, I had no idea what the hell I was doing. So I think, you know, you're constantly trying to redefine yourself, and you do that through your work, obviously, but that is a huge point of reference for a lot of people. We were trying to put some dancing, you know, in the Eagle, but it just wasn't working. I don't know, man. You know, if the right thing came along and it was interesting, and You know, I would love to dance. You never forget how to dance. You know, it's like riding a bike. It's funny actually. Channing is also a dancer as well, so it's kind of funny. But I mean, I would love to if the right thing came along.